The Odyssey was mid, not the, actual Homeric verse, but Christopher Nolan's Odyssey was mid. And, you could kind of tell this from a long way out. People really desperately wanted to make it part of the whole, culture war thing with, did get downvoted pretty hard. But, you know, people who downvoted desperately wanted it to flop, and people who saw that they didn't like the people who were downvoting it wanted it to be a triumph. And it's neither. It's mid. Now, it's going to do well, which the people who thought it was going to flop, like, it's a Christopher Nolan film, man. Like, you really got ahead. You got out ahead of your skis there. It was obviously going to do well. He's kind of the last director that still has that kind of draw. And I don't know. I think it, made a record, amount of money for its opening weekend, or at least we haven't seen one like that in a while. So it's not going to flop, and it might even end up making like $1 billion, which is a success. So, that's one thing. But I don't think it's going to be considered a classic or have a long cultural impact, have a long tail to it. In the same way that the people who were betting against like Avatar 2 when that was in the works, they were right that it did suck. Like, it was not great, but not smart to bet against James Cameron. And honestly, the third one's probably gonna make a shit ton of money too. I think he's still pumping those things out. But yeah, you could kind of tell from quite a ways out that the Odyssey wasn't really going to be anything special. It had a pretty bland color palette. They didn't really show off any spectacular scenes. There's some cool shots of the boat out on the ocean, but that's nothing special. There's too much realism in it, which isn't always a bad thing, but when you're talking about a heroic epic, it kind of is a bad thing. We really wanted a spectacle with that. One of the things that really gave it away for me is when I saw the sack of Troy. It looked so unimpressive, man. That old 2000s one with Brad Pitt did a way better job of portraying Troy. Again, probably less realistic as to what Troy looked like, but man, those walls were impressive. That city looked amazing. That movie had some issues of itself. But I even think, Brad Pitt and Eric Bana as, Achilles and Hector. We're going to remember those performances more than Matt Damon as Odysseus. Who cares about that? What's his name? Nolan cast him. So he's like, well, people naturally can, they root for Matt Damon. It's like, no, he's just everywhere, man. People are used to his face. He's a familiar face, I'll give you that, but I don't know. There's no special sauce to the movie, and it's competently done, competently shot, more or less competently acted. But again, there's no standout performances. There's no standout scenes. There's no standout, heroicness of it in a real way. And it's a heroic myth, man. It's the foundation of Western myth in a lot of ways. And yeah, the Cyclops scene was kind of cool, but and that's about it for really cool special effects shots, or really, I don't know how to phrase it, scenes that'll stick with you, I guess, that'll sort of imprint on your memory. But I don't think it's going to be watched and talked about and fawned over in the future. And it's a real shame, because we could use more movies like that. Hollywood's not doing too great these days. Again, Nolan's going to do fine with this, but generally, as an industry, they're really not doing too great. And they need to be able to nail, like, a movie like this should be a layup in terms of doing really well with audiences. It's something that you can't really, like, it's one of the few things that Hollywood can still do really well. And again, I don't think Nolan fell on his face with this at all, but I don't think it was a home run. It kind of reminds me of, it'll seem like a weird tangent, but the Napoleon biopic that was done a little ways back, that also should have been a layup, man. Audience was hungry for it, and you could kind of do that in a way that no other medium really could. You're not going to get a great, you know, Life of Napoleon video game, I don't think, or at least not for a long time. So that, you know, it really should have been able to knock it out of the park, but they want to reinterpret it. You know, I don't know if Nolan necessarily reinterpreted the Odyssey this way, but they just need to, like, they won't believe in the myth, I suppose. That's sort of what came out in the, God, why can't I remember that guy's name? Did the Gladiator? You know that director. He's the one who did the Napoleon one. And it was all about, you know, deconstructing Napoleon in a way that was actually even unrealistic. Like, yeah, there's a myth around Napoleon, but Ridley Scott, that's the guy. Yeah, Ridley Scott, like, wanted to embarrass Napoleon to the point of actually being, like, ahistorical in a lot of ways, and this Nolan one kind of seems, I wouldn't say ahistorical, but when you're gonna tell a myth, like, lean into the adventure, the excitement, what makes myth memorable, the great story of it, even if it's you know, not exactly true to reality. That's why these things, you know, have lasted for 3,000 years and still, you know, can inspire the public imagination. But no, he had to do his own boring take with it, you know, gray out the color, you know, modernize the actors, you know, take any spectacle out of the scenes to make it, you know, more grounded. And yeah, it just sucked the magic out of it, and Hollywood needs to rediscover movie magic. But again, big takeaway, it's going to do well financially. You know, it's going to get run through the culture war matrix, unfortunately. But what could have been a really great movie and really sort of brought people together around a, you know, common love of a great cinematic experience is now only going to be an kind of alright movie experience, and that's a bit of a shame. But that's it for me. I'll catch you guys next time.